What's going on, guys? Seth here from Team Union Seth, back as your coach of the Philadelphia Fearows for our Season 1 draft analysis of the Reborn Pokemon League. So this is the league that I am commissioning with another one with someone else that I actually met from the ISL. So in the ISL there were 8 of us, and me and this other guy decided to connect and commission our own league once the ISL kind of disbanded. So this is what's come of it, the Reborn Pokemon League. So we got 16 teams in the league, which is really, really cool. That's the most teams I've ever had in a league that I was in, which is really, really awesome. So I'm really excited to bring you guys this league and this draft analysis in general. So to start off, we have, like I said, 16 teams. The format here is 16 teams. It was a snake draft and a free draft. So you could draft from any tier at any time, whatever you wanted. Tiers 1 through 5, similar to the GBA, but we did change up our tiers a little bit. Mega tiers 1 through 4. We got 400 free points to spend however we like on 4 mons, and then 100 Z points at the end. So the requirements, we had to get 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2, 2 tier 3s, a tier 4, a tier 5, 4 free mons, and then a mega Pokemon. So depending on the tier, depending on what tier your mega Pokemon was in, you could potentially get points added to your free point total in order to get better mons elsewhere. And then for the Z points, you basically had to pick 2 Z captains, and you had a certain amount of points to spend. So you couldn't pick like 2 tier 1s as your Z captains. You know, if you wanted a tier 1 Z captain, you also had to get a tier 5 Z captain. So you could do like a 2 and a 4, you could do 2 tier 3 Z captains, however you wanted to do it, but you had those 100 points to spend however you'd like. So getting right into our draft analysis, I knew exactly what I wanted going into this draft. I believe I had the 5th pick in the draft out of 16, which is pretty decent. Some good stuff was taken ahead of me. I know Zygarde 50% was taken. I think Landorus was taken. I'm not too sure. Maybe Celesteela as well. I don't remember exactly what was taken in the draft, but what I wanted was not taken. I was pretty sure it wouldn't be taken, but we got the Mega Lopunny. So I've used Mega Lopunny before. I used it in one of the first seasons of my league with my friends, and I used it decently. I wasn't quite sure how to use it back then. I kind of just used it to break things, and I didn't use it to its fullest potential. So I've been wanting to kind of redeem myself with the Lopunny. I use this thing a lot on Showdown. I really, really like it, and I wanted to use it again in a league because it's just so good. It has an incredible speed tier at 135, so it outspeeds everything, almost everything, except for like a few other megas and a couple of ridiculously fast mons. It has great physical attack, so it is able to beat down mons with physical moves. It has phenomenal dual stab, so fighting and normal, it hits everything. It hits everything. It's ridiculous. And it does get pretty good coverage. So while its dual stab is incredible and hits everything, it also gets things like Ice Punch and Thunder Punch, and things like that. So its ability is scrappy, which is why its dual stab is so incredible. So even those ghost types who would normally be immune to both its stabs are not immune anymore. They're taking damage from return, they're taking damage from high jump kick, they're taking damage from drain punch. It's incredible. This thing is ridiculous. Before it mega evolves, it gets Q-Charm, Klutz, and Limber. Limber is really the only one you're gonna see me use personally, and pretty much anyone, because it allows it to potentially come in on a Thunder Wave or something like that, not be paralyzed, mega evolve, and put in the finest of work. So some common moves you're going to see, it gets the Drain Punch and the High Jump Kick and Power Up Punch for that fighting stab. It gets Fake Out, which is very commonly seen on this thing because it's stab and it does a lot of damage even for being a base 40 move. It gets Facade, which is really cool, quick attack for some priority. You'll also see Return on here a lot, which actually isn't on the list. It gets Fire Punch, Ice Punch, and Thunder Punch, so all of the elemental punches, as well as potentially Substitute. So Substitute is definitely something you could see. It also does get some setup in Workup, and like I said, the Power Up Punch. So like a sub Power Up Punch set could be pretty scary. Power Up Punch in general, if I'm predicting a switch, could be awesome. Fake Out is really good to come in and get some kills on mons that are really weak. Obviously, Drain Punch for recovery. High Jump Kick hits ridiculously hard, so really good moves from this thing. It doesn't need a whole lot of coverage. Like, it doesn't get a ton of coverage. It gets decent coverage for what it is, but it doesn't need a lot because its dual stab is so good. So, enough of me, gawking over Mega Lopunny. Our second pick in the draft was the Cresselia. Now, Cresselia, in our other league, the original league with our friends, this thing was banned. I used it one season. I used it ridiculously well. Everyone hated it. It was super annoying, so we just decided to ban it. In this league, it's tier 2. Cresselia is tier 2 in this league. Now, that's fair. I understand why it's tier 2. It makes total sense. But Cresselia and me, we just have some sort of, we just match. We're meant for each other. We have just that kind of relationship where we just don't lose. So it has incredible bulk on both sides. It gives us a ground immunity with its levitate ability. It has reliable recovery in Moonlight. It even has a good speed tier at base 85, and it can set up with Calm Mind. Running a physically defensive Calm Mind Cresselia is broken. It is busted, and I love it so much. I'm so excited to use this thing again. This thing is just fat and annoying, and it's amazing. Like I said, its ability is Levitate. Gets that Levitate ability, giving us a ground immunity. Some common moves you'll see. Calm Mind, like I said, it does get good coverage in things like Energy Ball, Ice Beam, Moon Blast, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Signal Beam. It can set up screens, so Light Screen and Reflect. It gets Lunar Dance to potentially heal up some of our mons. Substitute can be really annoying. Thunder Wave and Toxic can also be really annoying. And then it is a good Trick Room setter and potentially user, which is really, really cool. So I am super excited to use Cresselia. And this thing, you're going to see a Rocky Helmet run on this thing a lot. It's fat, and it can wear down teams for that Mega Lopunny, which is exactly why I wanted it. Or Mega Lopunny can weaken teams for this thing. It can get rid of Steel types that beat Cresselia. It can get rid of a lot of stuff that Cresselia can come in, Calm Mind up, and just sweep everything. So our next pick in the draft was Skarmory. Now, even more fatness. This team is stupid fat just because Lopunny is here. Now, what's really great about this thing is, again, I can slap on a Rocky Helmet, take physical hits, and start wearing teams down, but it also gets two forms of hazards. It gets Stealth Rock, and it gets Spikes, which is amazing for that Mega Lopunny to come in at the end and just sweep. It also gets hazard removal in the Defog, and is another ground immunity with its flying typing. It also is able to phase, so it gets Whirlwind to phase our opponent's mons in and out. Combining that with the hazards and potentially even a Rocky Helmet could be really, really nice for us. So its abilities, it gets Keen Eye, Sturdy, and Weak Armor. Weak Armor could be kind of cool. I could see us running some weird cheeky set with that. Keen Eye, not really going to be seen much. The main ability you're going to be seeing is Sturdy to potentially take a hit if necessary, or just if something catches us off guard, we can still live it and do something of the sort. So we can pretty much guaranteed get up rocks or spikes or something right off the bat if we decide to lead with this thing, which is super cool and really, really useful. Some typical moves you're going to see. Brave Bird and Iron Head are its main offensive moves, but this thing is not really here for running offensive moves. Gets Defog, Roost for reliable recovery, like I had mentioned, Stealth Rock and Spikes, Tailwind for some team support, which could be cool, Taunt, Toxic, and Whirlwind. So really, really good, very good utility mon, and I'm really excited to have Skarmory on the squad. Next up, we picked Darmanitan. Now, Darmanitan was tier 3. Now, the fourth pick overall, or the fourth round, could have been a little bit early to dig into tier 3 and get Darmanitan, but I really wanted to make sure I had this thing because it has a ridiculous attack stat. I'm pretty sure it's 145 base attack, base physical attack. It gets U-turn, which is really, really helpful, especially with a choice band or even a choice scarf to wear things down for the Lopunny. It gets really powerful offensive coverage. So it doesn't have a huge, wide move pool, but what it does have is very powerful attacks. So it also has a good speed tier at 95, so it doesn't quite hit that base 100, but it's really good. It's a very good Scarfer, and it's really good for wall breaking against some, like I said, like I mentioned, walls or some bulkier threats in general. Its abilities, it gets Sheer Force and Zen Mode. Now, like 99% of the time, you're gonna see Sheer Force, just because it's that good, and Zen Mode's that bad. However, I do plan to bring Zen Mode at least once this season. I really want to have some fun with a Zen Mode Darmanitan. So we're going to see how that works out. But for the most part, we're going to see Sheer Force just because it's so good. Typical moves you'll see on it, gets the Earthquake, Fire Punch, Flare Blitz, Rock Slide, Stone Edge, Superpower, U-Turn, and Zen Headbutt. Those are its its offensive moves, and then potentially Substitute and Taunt for a little bit of utility or just some, shenanigans I want to pull. Like I said, it doesn't get a ridiculously wide move pool, but it gets powerful moves. Earthquake and Flare Blitz and Stone Edge and Superpower. Those are super powered moves, no pun intended. The U-turn is awesome, and the Zen Headbutt is really cool as well. And if I want to run, go for, no recoil with the Flare Blitz, I have Fire Punch there. And the Rock Slide can be run over Stone Edge if I want a little bit more accuracy. So I was really excited about Darmanitan. I'm really glad I got it. And I think a really offensive wall-breaking fire type is really, really good in League format. Next up, we have the Suicune. Now, like I said, this team is fat. P-H-A-T, fat. Now, with Cresselia, Skarmory, and Suicune, nothing is breaking through this wall core. Suicune has an incredible bulk. It is a bulky water type, which I think, in my opinion, is crucial to every League format draft. And it gets set up in Calm Mind. This thing is nasty. It gets pressure, so we could potentially pressure stall with like Protect, Sub, and Toxic. And it does get Inner Focus as well, in case I don't want to be flinched with something, whether it's Fake Out or whatever. I could potentially run that. Standard moves. It doesn't have a ton that it runs, but what it does run is really good. It gets Calm Mind for that setup. Could potentially be running Substitute with that. Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Scald, and Surf. Those are what you're going to see mainly offensive. Could be running a Hidden Power, but that's not super common. It does get Roar for some phasing. Like I'd mentioned before, Protect, Substitute, and Toxic can be pretty nasty. And what's really cool is it does get Tailwind. It does get Tailwind, which can potentially come in pretty clutch. So that's actually 2 Tailwind users on our team, I believe. Yeah, 2 Tailwind users on our team, which is kind of cool. So, moving on, we have the Tornadus Incarnate. Now, I didn't originally plan on getting the Tornadus. I really, really wanted Zygarde 10%. I really wanted Zygarde 10% on this team, but it got sniped 2 picks before this one. This was the round I was going to take it, and it got sniped 2 picks before me. I was so mad, but I decided to go with the Tornadus. It wasn't originally on my draft board, but I looked at this thing, and I'm like, alright, it gets a lot of coverage. I needed something that was still up around that, over base 110 or around base 110 speed tier, with Zydog being 115. So I wanted something that was fast, and I wanted something that could just be pretty strong. So Tornadus Incarnate is what we came to. It was in tier 3, which I feel is really, really valuable. It's very much a value pick in tier 3. It gets Prankster, so it can run some really cool tech moves. Another ground immunity. Powerful coverage, so it does have really good coverage moves. It's a great speed tier at 111, so it's outspeeding those base 110s and is significantly over base 100. It gives us another defogger, so it does give us some more hazard removal. And it does get momentum in the U-turn. So really quality mon, very, very utility, and I think it's going to be really, really clutch for us this season. Its abilities, it gets Prankster like I had mentioned, and it gets Defiant. So Defiant on this thing is really cool because it does get some good physical coverage, and if my opponent's running an Intimidate user or something that's going to lower my stats, I can switch this thing in on that or predicting it, whatever, get my Defiant boost and just start punching holes in teams with a bunch of different coverage, which I will show you now. So it gets a lot of different coverage moves. If we're thinking in physical terms for Defiant, we have the Acrobatics, we have Crunch, we have Knockoff, U-turn, Superpower. So its physical coverage is pretty decent. On the special side, it gets things like Dark Pulse, Extra Sensory, Focus Blast, Grass Knot, Heat Wave, Hurricane, Psychic, Sludge Wave even. So some really cool stuff. And then some utility moves. It gets Bulk Up for some setup. It gets Defog like I had mentioned. It gets Substitute, which can be pretty cool. Another Tailwind user, so Prankster Tailwind could be pretty cool, especially coming in if this thing is weakened. It could set up a Prankster Tailwind, die, and then something comes in and can start being super fast and sweeping. And then Prankster Taunt would also be pretty cool to help with some of his walls. Moving on, our next pick was the Serena. So at this point, I wanted a grass type to fill out my Fire, Water, Grass core. I already had Darmanitan and Suicune, and I really wanted a Rapid Spinner. So Serena is both of those things, and which is why I picked it. Also, I've recently seen Serena used a little bit, and it's very strong. Base 120 attack is nothing to laugh at. So I'm really excited to see how this thing does, really excited to use it. It does have pretty good coverage. It does have pretty good coverage as well. Like I said, it gets the rapid spin for hazard removal. It has momentum with the U-turn, and as you know, some of you guys may know, Volt Turn is my favorite strategy to use, my favorite playstyle. And it's a cleric with aromatherapy. So this thing is super versatile, and it's a great assault vest user too. It has good bulk, because it gets such good coverage and that rapid spin is an attacking move. Assault vest is a really common item and is very good on this thing too. So I'm really excited to see how this thing does. Its abilities: Leaf Guard, Queenly Majesty, and Sweet Veil. Nothing too crazy there, but can be useful. Moving on to its moves: Acrobatics, Aromatherapy, High Jump Kick, Knockoff, Play Rough, Power Whip, Rapid Spin, Synthesis, U-Turn, and then Headbutt. So it does have pretty decent coverage. It has a lot of attacking moves, mainly physical, which obviously complements its 120 base physical attack. Like I said, it gets Aromatherapy, so it can act as a cleric for my team. Synthesis for reliable recovery is awesome. Rapid Spin for that hazard removal, and then U-Turn for momentum. So it does have really good coverage. I'm really excited to use this thing, and I think it was a great way to round out my Fire, Water, Grass core. Next up, we went with the Nidoqueen. Now, I don't know how this thing dropped all the way to, what was it, round 7? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this thing dropped all the way to round 7. Nidoqueen is arguably one of the best mons in League format, especially in the lower tiers. This thing was tier 2, and I had the points towards the end to pick it up, which I was really excited for. So, it gets hazards, it gets stealth rocks, and toxic spikes, which again is really good for Megalopony and for helping to wear down teams in general. Gives us an electric immunity, which does help us help our Skarmory, Tornadus, and Suicune up to this point. It has amazing coverage, so any coverage move you think, or any coverage type you want it to have, it pretty much has. This thing's coverage is ridiculous. It can be run physical or special, and it has very, very good bulk. It can be run bulky, it can take hits, slap an assault vest on it, or just some black sludge, things like that. It is very effective when run bulky. It could be a lead set with, dual hazards. Whatever you can think to run on this thing, it can do it pretty much. Its abilities are Poison Point, Rivalry, and Sheer Force. Now, most of the time, pretty much all the time, you're going to see Sheer Force. Rivalry is kind of a useless ability, and Poison Point could be interesting, running something like Sludge Bomb or Poison Jab, and then, hoping for a poison if they attack you. But, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see Sheer Force on this thing. It's just that good. That gives us 2 Sheer Force mons, which is really, really cool. And I did also just need a ground type at this point, so I really wanted that to help fill out the team. Like I said, it gets a ton of different moves. I couldn't fit any more on here, but there's so much more you could fit. Crunch, Earth Power, Earthquake, Flamethrower, Focus Blast, Ice Beam, Ice Punch, Poison Jab, Sludge Wave, Stone Edge, Superpower, Thunderbolt, Thunder Punch. It gets Rocks, it gets Toxic Spikes, it gets Taunt even, Surf, Sucker Punch for priority. This thing is awesome, and I can't believe it dropped to round 7, but we snagged it, which is amazing. Our next pick was the Goodra. Now, I needed a Dragon type. As I said before, my Zygarde 10% did get sniped, but I still needed a Dragon type. I think Dragon typing is really important in League format, and I wanted to start really rounding out my Fairy Dragon Steel core, which I did not really have at this point. So this thing gets really good coverage. It can be run physical or special. That's something I really look for in a lot of my drafts, and a lot of the mons I like to pick is versatility. Can they do multiple things, or are they just kind of a one-trick pony? So, great coverage on both sides, and it does have incredible special bulk. I believe it's base 150 special defense, and somewhere I think in the 80 to 100 range for HP, which is really, really nice, and it makes it for a great assault vest user. Its abilities, it has 3 great abilities, honestly. Sap Sipper, Hydration, and Gooey. Sap Sipper giving us potentially a grass immunity. Hydration if we end up facing a rain team. Again, we have things that can work well in rain. This thing can take statuses and heal up from them with the hydration. And then Gooey, if we get hit, lowers the speed on our opponent, which can be really, really useful potentially late game. Some coverage options that it does get: Aqua Tail, Draco Meteor, Dragon Tail, Earthquake, Fire Blast, Fire Punch, Focus Blast, Ice Beam, Outrage, Power Whip, Sludge Bomb, Superpower, Thunderbolt, and Thunder Punch. It doesn't get a whole lot of utility non-attacking moves, but the moves it does get, the attacking moves it gets, are really nice, and really complement each other well. So that is our Goodra in round 8. I was also kind of surprised this thing dropped to round 8, but it did. We were able to get it, another tier 2 pick. We were able to pick up some pretty good mid-tier mons, because I did pick a few lower tier mons as well. Next up, we have the Rotom. So I needed a tier 5, and what I really wanted was 1, momentum, and 2, a spin blocker. So this thing gives us both of those. It gives us the Volt Switch, it gives us that ghost typing for a spin blocker, gives us a ground immunity, another one with the levitate ability. It has a good speed tier at base 91, so it does outspeed those base 90s or 80s, 85s with common Scarfers, so that's really good. And it gives us another form of hazard removal with the Defog. So obviously having a lot of Defog on a team, intended to set up hazards and sweep with Mega Lopunny, or just wear down teams with Mega Lopunny, is not optimal, but Defog in general is just good for the team, good team support. Like I said, this thing gets Levitate, that's its only ability, and then its moves that it typically runs doesn't have a whole lot, doesn't have a ton of moves, but what it does have is pretty effective. Defog, Hex, Pain Split for recovery, Shadow Ball, and Thunderbolt for that dual stab, Thunder Wave and Toxic for and Will-O-Wisp for potential statusing. Could potentially run like a Scarf Trick set, and then that Volt Switch for the momentum. So I'm not super excited about this pick. I don't think Rotom's going to come a ton, but it definitely makes can make my opponent think twice about bringing a Rapid Spinner or something like that. So it is there. It can potentially put in some work. Like I said, I don't foresee us bringing it a ton to matches, but it could potentially see some action in the season. Now, our final pick in the draft was Purugly. Now, I needed another tier 5, just because of the points I was at. I need another tier 5. And I was like, hey, there's nothing I really need anymore but speed. I needed something that was fast. And Purugly fit the bill. And I saw Purugly, and I don't know, so I don't think I've ever completed Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum. I've only ever played Diamond. And in that game, I saw Purugly, and it was just really annoying. I think it was, Team Galactic in that game? It was just really annoying. It was, powerful, and it, fake outed and did all kinds of crap. And ever since that, I wanted to use it. I don't know why. It gets priority with Fake Out and Quick Attack, and Sucker Punch. It has a good attack stat, great speed tier at 112, and it gets momentum with U-Turn. I'm excited to use this thing, this fat cat. I'm excited to use this thing because it's fast and it can potentially hit pretty hard. Its abilities are pretty good. It gives us a thick fat user, so giving us resistances to fire and ice, which is really cool. Own tempo, not being able to get confused, and another defiant user, which could be really, really clutch in certain matchups. It doesn't get a ton of coverage, but it does get some nice stab, and it gets a little bit of setup as well. Facade could be cool. Fake Out's really awesome. Hone Claws for setup. Knockoff is amazing. Play Rough is actually pretty clutch. Quick Attack for that priority. Return for strong stat. Shadow Claw could be cool. Sucker Punch, another priority move, could be really awesome. And then U-Turn for that momentum. So fast U-Turners, slow U-Turners. I love U-Turn. I love Volt Switch. I can't wait to use this thing. I was actually really excited when I got this thing. So that is the team. As you guys can see, that is our team for the RPL, the Reborn Pokemon League, the league that I, along with my partner in this league, are commissioning. We're going to see how it goes. I really like this team. There were a couple of things, I forget what they were, a couple of things that I wanted to fill out that I didn't. I don't have a Fairy type on this team, and I knew that going into the later rounds. I was like, I should probably pick up a Fairy. It could be useful, but, I do have, the Skarmory to help take on dragons. I have things that can account for that. It's not the end of the world not having a Fairy. I usually like to have a Fairy type in my drafts, but other than that, I really like this team. It's not super fast. It does have some good speed with the Lopunny, Purugly, Tornadus, even Rotom and Darmanitan are pretty cool. It's not super fast, but it's super fat with Cresselia and Skarmory and Suicune and Goodra. It's super fat, and it really supports each other well. It has very good synergy, and that's the part I'm really excited about. There have been some leagues in the past where I didn't draft super great synergy, and it came back to bite me in the butt. So I'm really excited to use this team. I really feel like it synergizes well. Some old mons that I've used before, like the Cresselia and the Lopunny, I'm really excited to use again. And then some new ones like Serena, Suicune, and things like that, I'm very, very, very excited to use. So we'll see how this season goes. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of the team. I was really, really into this team. I'm very proud of it. I really like where it's going. But let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.